Welcome, team, to episode 14 of the KG podcast, Athletes Shining a Light on Mental Health. Luke Wheat here in Knoxville, Tennessee, with my co-host, Pat O'Malley. What's going on, buddy?
Everything's great, man. Just getting back from MIA. We're back here in the Shy.
Yeah.
Nettie is back in the Shy, so it's always a good day to see Nettie, and always a good day to get back with some good people. How about you, Luke?
Yeah, 100%. Miami sounded dope, dude. I'm glad you got to do that. A little business, a little pleasure. That's awesome. Coming off a long week. We had alumni game yesterday, which was awesome. Since it's my third year helping out with the team, or fourth, it was nice to see the kids that have graduated and came back in town, see how they're living life, see how college is going. Great to check in on those boys. But first week of preseason, right? Or second week of preseason. So we had two scrimmages, Tuesday, Thursday, alumni game yesterday. We hit the ground running this week.
No, I love it, Luke. And how are the boys looking?
They look great. And it's crazy how much passion this team already has. I swear we played a team on Tuesday that had played three scrimmages already. So they were firing on all cylinders. It's our first game, and we end up losing like 3-1 or something. And everybody's like, what's going on? Let's go. We got to fix this. And it's like the passion from the first preseason scrimmage to just be competitors and to win for each other was just awesome to see. And then they come back Thursday and respond with a 2-0 win. So, couldn't ask any more of them.
Love it. And we know it's all about the coaching. Luke being very modest, done a great job with those boys. Shout out.
Yeah, they really worked. They worked against my coaching and still won. It was crazy.
And give yourselves some more credit, Luke. You guys are doing a great job. And I look forward to, now that Web Soccer follows my personal Instagram, I look forward to following you.
Right.
Yes, sir.
That's
yes,
right.
Sir.
This is a Web School Knoxville soccer podcast now.
Oh, we love it. We support you any way we can. And speaking of support, we got to talk about last week's network and last week's support. What an episode last week was, Luke. Any takeaways?
Dude, Jackie Tripp, we appreciate you coming on. Huge person in AP. She's been dropping just little nuggets of self-help stuff this week, all weekend, on mental movement, her Instagram page. We can't thank her enough for her opinion on this stuff.
No, and I said I would bring up APs, and APs was fantastic over the weekend, and Jackie Tripp obviously brought the juice, and shout out her network and everything. And on social media, on Instagram, at the KG podcast. And Luke, a quick reminder, we're not trained specialists.
That's right, man. We're just a couple of ex-athletes. We're not psychologists. We're not psychiatrists. We're just doing what we can for the current student athletes, just to get them mentally right and prepared and break the stigma, man. That's what we're doing.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. And we got David Kamisa coming on today, another Accountability Partners member, someone with a great background. He's an overall fantastic human being. And I'm juiced. I know you haven't met him. I know you talked a little bit in the prelude, but before we go into DK's interview, walk me through something you did this week, Luke, for your mental health.
Yeah, I've been doing a new book called Breathe, Focus, Excel. So really just trying to be way more at peace throughout the day, and not feel so anxious, not feel very like hyped up all the time, which it's great to have a lot of energy, but I feel like I was having, too much energy a little bit at some times and not being able to focus enough. So it's a Harvey Martin book. I was listening to the You Never Know podcast with Mike and Marcus Stroman, and this is the thing Marcus Stroman's been doing. So he kind of got me fired up on it and just been doing a couple breathing techniques.
No, I love that, man. And definitely drop that book and where they can get it in the show notes. I'll definitely be getting a copy here in March. But on my end, I think this week a huge step I took was kind of an odd one. It was realizing that I'm not going to get to everything. So let me elaborate on that. So I'm a big up at this time, eat at this time, work out at this time type of guy. But over the last week, things have come up. I've got away from my overall routine a little bit, kept my non-negotiables intact, but realized if I didn't get to everything, I wasn't a failure. And I think for the last couple months, that's been an issue for me, trying to realize, all right, I got 12 things to do. You better get all 12 or you failed the day. Guys, I apologize. That is not how this goes. Try to set some non-negotiables. Do your best to do the best you can with that list. And if you fall short, make up for it the next day or the day after that. We're not chasing perfection. It's about the journey. And I think we touched on that a lot. So having your non-negotiables, but knowing that things are going to come up and that's okay.
Yeah, we touch on it all the time, and it's, you want to be the best version of yourself you can be. But if you're driving yourself to an anxious mess, or if you're, pushing yourself in a negative direction just to be a little bit more productive in the day, maybe you can wait till the next day. Maybe you can get a little bit of self-care in at the end of the evening instead of, sending a couple more work emails out that could wait till 8 at the next morning. Maybe that's what you do instead.
No doubt, no doubt. And knowing where your energy goes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a huge piece. So just knowing that we're out here trying to chase some goals, but we don't have to be perfect every day. I just want to make that clear. Awesome stuff. Without further ado, I got David Kamisic here today. DK, come on.
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
DK, nice to see you, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. It's good to be on here. Appreciate you guys doing this, number one, and having me on. So excited to get going here.
Oh, man. We're juiced to have you on. And I told myself I wouldn't mess this up. We're at episode 14, 2 touchdowns, 2 extra points. I couldn't be more fired up to get that right. So, Luke, go ahead.
Oh, man, we're super pumped to have you, DK. A little bit different perspective this week from somebody who's been in the sports broadcasting field, which to me is a super interesting part of sports, where you all get to give athletes a platform, give coaches a platform, people involved in the game to kind of get their message out. So super interested to see how your career has been.
And spoiler, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I was just saying, it's breaking the wheel here a little bit. I kind of realized early on that I wasn't a college level athlete. You guys always talk about just being D3. I wasn't quite good enough to play D3. So
love the game, baby.
Hey, we do it for the love of the sport, baby. Love of the sport.
Hey, with your energy, I would have taken you on my team anyway. It's okay.
But I couldn't shoot really well, but I played hard. I knew the plays, so that was my my bread and butter right there, Luke. So you guys.
It's not as easy as people make it look. Okay.
Ultimate glue guy.
Yeah. Everybody plays a role. And David, that kind of brings me to our first piece of this. We mentioned already you did not play college hoops. You've been around sports for 30 plus years now, indirectly and directly. Walk me through early years. When did you know that sports were going to be a huge part of your life?
Yeah, my mom has a picture of me when I was like 4 years old. I'm laying on the floor of my old house, the house that I was born in. We moved out to the burbs when I was like 6, and I'm reading the baseball box scores in the newspaper. I'm like 4 years old, but I'm studying these things, right? So like from an early age, sports was just part of my life. My parents were never super involved in sports, but I was supportive. They were always fans growing up, and so having an older brother, I think, helped too. So from a young age, sports was part of my life. Played competitive baseball, basketball throughout middle school. Got into high school, decided just to focus on hoops, and from there it was like, hey, if I could somehow parlay sports into my professional career, that's the goal that I was looking for.
Love that. And of course, we're a big family podcast, and we talk about our fams all the time. And if I didn't shout out your mom and dad, I'd be doing a total disservice. So just letting the listeners know where David comes from is it's tough love, but it's real love, and it's unconditional. And meeting your parents now a couple weekends ago, I know why you're the young man and why the man you are. So appreciate that. And I appreciate mom and pop. So I had to shout them out. Luke, go ahead.
John Mark,
yeah, for sure, man. I think anytime that you can have, and we've talked about it before, a perspective of more your life instead of just athletics, I think that's awesome. So being able to recognize that from an early age, how can I keep sports in my life, but not let it be a deterrent, let it be an additive? And you found that through sports journalism, and that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Stay there. Go ahead. Stay there. So we get into high school, those thoughts start kicking around, maybe playing college athletics, maybe staying in sports. Tell me when you start kicking the tires on working with athletes, working with coaches at a high level.
Yeah, again, I'm a diehard Cubs fan growing up, and I always thought, Harry Carey had a pretty cool job. I was like, if I could have a job like Harry Carey, that'd be pretty great. So honestly, that was part of my motivation. And I was like, sports broadcasting. And again, I've always appreciated the stuff not going on in the field in sports. Like I'm a nerd when it comes to like free agency and salaries and X's and O's. I was telling you guys I coach 6th grade basketball on my nephew's team, and love making plays and stuff in the huddles. And
is the trading block closed on that 6th grade league yet? Or are you looking to add a couple pieces for the late part of the season?
Transfer portal's about to heat up.
How the NIL deal's going down there.
Oh my.
But yeah, I decided, I wanted to get into sports broadcasting. I was like, hey, if I can get paid all day to talk about sports and 10 sporting events and live that life. That was kind of the goal for me and what I wanted to do. So, again, I focused my college search based on, I want to go to broadcasting. I want to get into the sports world that way. And again, that really kind of set up my really professional career from there.
No, David, I love it, man. I love it. We talk about in this pod all the time. We talk about how big of a role your support system is, your supporting cast. You mentioned your brother already, but I know you got some brothers and some really close friends and family members. Were they a big part of this dream as you were coming through high school, coming through college?
Yeah, 100%. I think when you get into sports broadcasting, you don't get into sports broadcasting because you want to be like rich and you want to, make a ton of money and you want to, have normal hours. Like I was working Friday through Tuesday, 2 to 11 p.m. So I'd be working through the 6 to 10 o'clock newscast. Sports are going on the weekends. So there were Saturdays I was up at 8 a.m. to get to 11 a.m. Wisconsin Badger game, working till 10 p.m. at night, getting up at 7 a.m., then drive to Lambeau Field for a Packers game the next day. So really I had to kind of live my own life in a way. Like I moved to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 22 years old, didn't know anybody in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And for me, family, friends have always been a super important part of my life. So to kind of go on that venture, go on that journey, be by myself was a huge step in my career to, I think, number one, experience like that goal, that dream that I had to get into sports broadcasting, but then also like be away from people and kind of figure out a way to grow myself. And again, 22-year-old living by yourself, you don't have mom and dad nearby, you don't have your friends, you don't have your family. It's different. So that was a huge step, I think, in my career. And I'm very appreciative of having that opportunity to kind of venture out there. And again, it's not, anywhere super crazy, but Eau Claire, Wisconsin was even a little bit of a culture shock for me living in Chicago, growing up, in the suburbs here, and then going to school in downtown Milwaukee, then moving to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. It was kind of a reverse culture shock, kind of going to like more smaller town, smaller city sort of feel.
Yeah, Luke, go ahead.
Dude, that's we had pretty similar experiences. I started college coaching at 22. Again, not a lot of money and a lot of weird hours. I remember driving to Tampa from Athens, Tennessee, 11 hours to go on a recruiting trip and then to meet the team for a game and then to be back on a Sunday night at like 3 a.m. And then we're practicing the night, like the hours are long and the pay is little, but if the passion's there, the passion is there. Is that kind of what kept you going through all those hours and things?
Yeah, 100%. My first boss in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, one of the first weeks I worked there, he told me, if you got into this business to make money, you're in the wrong business. He was straight up with me, right? But
yeah,
I had some incredible experiences. I got to cover, the Packers in the Super Bowl down in Dallas. I've gotten to cover Rose Bowl teams, NCAA tournament teams. I was in the Brewers locker room getting sprayed with champagne by Prince Fielder when they clinched their first playoff berth in 25 years. Like those memories and those stories that I have from broadcasting made the juice worth the squeeze, even though I was living paycheck to paycheck and, missing weekends of niece and nephew's birthday parties and not being able to, take a long weekend to go for a wedding or there's little stuff like that. So I had to make sacrifices, I think, in my life. But
yeah, and that's
for me.
100%. That's kind of what I wanted to touch on because I remember being that young, living by myself and not being able to handle it too well. Just feeling pretty lonely most days after work. You're around people all day and I'm a people person. So whenever I would get home and nobody would be there, it was a very interesting thing. Did you have any struggles with that? And like, how did you handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the first time living by myself, again, I'm very family friend driven. So, having that connection even to this day, that's a huge part of my life. So especially the first couple of weeks, you're the new guy in town, you're trying to kind of feel things out a little bit, kind of figure out where do I fit, where's my spot, again, new area. I can remember one night I got home from work, didn't have cable yet, so I just stopped at the local pub. I was like, just want to watch Sports Center for an hour, and not be at home. And I had a good buddy of mine who lived out in LA, and he moved out to LA after college. He went to St. Olaf University in Minnesota, so small school, again, small town. Moved out to LA to kind of pursue his dream and his goal. And I remember one night just giving him a buzz and just kind of chopping it up with him. And, didn't really talk about kind of how I was feeling, but just wanted to like hear from him how he was doing and kind of the positivity that he had. And I was always thinking, if he can do it, I can do it, right? So finding that motivation in your friends.
Strength in numbers.
People that are close to you and having that kind of be that kick in the butt you need to say, hey, you're doing this for a reason. You're on the right path. Just keep working and keep going, I guess,
Yeah, man. Great to keep the bigger, broader perspective in mind for sure.
Yeah, David, I kind of want to, that's a great segue. You talk about we talk about in the prelude, how you carry yourself now, right? How when we had hundreds of people reach out for guests, you were someone without a college sport player background that we wanted on here in season 1. And some of the stuff that we're talking about right now, our listeners are starting to find out why. But it hasn't always been like this. You haven't always been higher up in a great career with this great background, spraying bottles with Prince Fielder, helping thousands of athletes. You've had a great career in this, but it's not always been like this. So what I'm getting at here is when you had those issues in Eau Claire financially, maybe some loneliness coming in, maybe just being overworked, you were working 15-plus-hour days. Besides your friend group and your family support, what did you do for helping yourself back then? I got to know, because I commend you, man. This sounds incredible.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can pinpoint something, right? I don't know if, back then, if this was, I'm not nearly as reflective and have the perspective I do now than when I did back then, right? So back then at that age, it was just churn and burn. It was like, just keep working your hours, keep doing what you need to do professionally, continue to try to build yourself up and kind of move on. I think for me, it's always been the fact that I was in sports, right? I was working in a field that I loved, that I knew, didn't feel like going to work, right? So those long days, like I loved getting out of the station at midnight on a high school football Friday night, getting up at 7, driving to, to Madison for something, driving to Lamb, like that fired me up. Like, it wasn't like, oh man, I got to do this. It was like, I get to do this. Like, that was the mindset that I had. Because again, a lot of people, I'm sure, would love to be in sports broadcasting. And so I always try to take advantage of every opportunity I had and use that. So again, for me, the fact that I've worked in sports my entire career, it gives me that outlet naturally to like do something that I enjoy, right? Like, so many people we know, they're working in a field that they're working just to make money, or because that's what they feel they have to do. For me, I've been very fortunate that I was able to kind of follow that passion and, be able to, again, to work my tail off and put myself in the position to be successful, right?
Yeah, 100%. Love what you do, and you'll never work a day in your life, is what they say. But yeah, it sounds like you just tried to maintain that positive perspective as long as you could. And that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I remember my mom. Speaking of my mom, Pat, you'll appreciate.
Shout her out.
When I was a kid, I asked my mom. She tells me the story. She said, "You asked me one day, like, what do you want me to be when I grow up, Mom?" And she said, "Happy." I want you to be happy, right? She didn't even think of it from like a profession standpoint, like I was asking. So I think even just having that in my head is it makes it all worth a while. I think, to me, to be able to do stuff you love and help high school athletes, help college athletes, work in the field that we do, Pat. Again, it's a pretty special feeling for sure.
Run that back, man. I
took a note on that one.
I know Luke was deep in the notes there. I knew we were feeling this. So stay with the happiness piece, man. I love that, because like Luke said, often in our interviews, our prior interviews, we've talked about separating from the identity.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me right now that you were so wrapped up in the high school, college sports side, pro side, but you can stay in athletics if you do things the right way. And you've been doing it now for how many years? I think that's refreshing for our listeners to know there's careers out there. There's other side hustles and outlets to not completely separate from their sport, but to do both. Stay in softball, stay in basketball, football, but still work a 9 to 5. And it's like eating a bag of potato chips, man. You can't just eat one when you're playing sports and coaches. I don't know who told me that, but shout out whoever told me that. But that is fantastic stuff. I didn't know we'd go there, so that's great. Luke, anything to cap on that?
No, I love it. I just think it's so cool to focus on just not the on the field product. I love whenever you just get to hear about the players, maybe daily life or what their hobbies are, or the charities that they're impacting with all these bigger contracts like they're getting. So just learning the day-to-day stuff about players just, to me, keeps me super engaged in the sports and wanting to watch it even more. So it's a great piece to add.
Yeah, and I think when I was working in broadcasting, what I loved, and I think part of who I've just become now is, you're interviewing athletes, you're interviewing coaches. You're ultimately learning about them, like what makes them tick, their background, what are they doing to be successful. And I think this is kind of where the perspective comes into play. Is I would cover, I covered a high school cross country kid once who was in Germany on a school trip, had a crazy brain aneurysm happen, something crazy happened, had to go to the hospital in Germany for a couple months, came back, and a few months later was running in the state cross country meet, right? Like, to me, that's adversity in life. Like, the stuff that I went through in life pales in comparison, I think, to the things that that other people have been through. And I think, having worked in broadcasting, Pat, we talk to, again, athletes all the time who come from all different backgrounds and different experiences, and college to them is that salvation almost, of like, this is going to change my life for the better, right? And be able to play a small part in that, I think, is really powerful and important. But again, I think about some of the stories and some of the people that I've met along the way, and again, we've all been through things in our lives. Again, for me, it hasn't been necessarily that sports moment like a lot of your guests have been, but it's realizing that the stories that people have been through in the athletic world, like a Richard Eargan, to hear his story and the things that he overcomes. Like, my life is nothing compared to that, which again makes me that much more appreciative that I've had all these opportunities and been able to live the life that I have, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pat. I see you right there.
Luke, that perspective. Whew, okay. All right. Taking a step back here, live here. One, your perspective now, David, compared to a couple of years ago, this is night and day, man. I mean, you're in a position now where you understand that you might not have these huge mountains of issues, but everyone has issues. You never know what someone's going through. I think that's super powerful. And two, to see you, wow, I like knowing you for the last 5 years, like having this conversation, I'm still learning new things. But then to have that story about the athlete and have things like Rich Jurgen and all these things, I'm blown away by your perspective and the fact that you're still, we talk about shining the light on athletes to this day, man. And we love you for that. So thank you for doing that.
Appreciate that. And I think, I think my story, again, I think we all have a story, right? Like, you got a story, Pat, Luke, you got a story, I got a story. And there's things that have happened in my life that I think, to me, probably aren't a big deal, that maybe to you guys, would be a big deal, right? And again, I think that's interesting thing about perspective is understanding what other people are going through and what's important to them, right? Because again, the most important thing to me isn't the most important thing to Pat. But when something comes up, Pat, with you, that's super important to you. If I don't get it, like, let's talk about it, let's figure it out, right? So I think trying to, again, understand that I've been very fortunate. Again, my parents have been super supportive. They've, helped set up the life that I am, helped set up the person that I am. So I think for me, it's always a matter of like paying that forward, and how can I continue to positively impact as many people as I can. And Pat, me, I love seeing other people succeed and other people have success, and other people having, the best times of their lives, right? And I think I can have that perspective because of the life that I've lived. And again, for me, in sports and work, like, I've never woken up one day in my life and thought to myself, man, I got to go to work today. I appreciate the heck out of that, because I know a lot of people struggle with that, right? And some of the things have happened in my personal life that have, weighed on me or messed with my mental aspect. Like, I could dive into work. For some people, that's worse. For me, it makes it better when I'm able to dive into my job, dive into work, focus all my energy there, and let some of the other stuff. It's kind of like, you don't bring your personal life to work. You don't bring your work life into your personal life. For me, that couldn't be more the truth, right? Like, when I'm in at work, I'm locked in, I'm forgetting all that other stuff. And so again, for me, sports has also been that outlet, like you talked about, Luke, like, to continue my career, continue that happiness without playing the sport and being, on the field or on the court.
100%. And I see that perspective piece in your job, right? If you didn't have the want to understand somebody else's perspective, you could never ask good questions. You could never get great conversations with athletes out. And that's something that also, that lets them know you care about them as more than just an athlete, right? That's something that I try and do with my high school students every day. So it's definitely a great life skill to learn. Just understanding other people's perspective actually lets them know that you care about them. So I love that, man.
Yeah, and Luke, I'm sure you have it, right? Like, you don't coach every kid the same way.
No,
right? You have to coach certain people a certain way based on who they are, right? And I think that's an important thing in life and business and in your personal relationships, right? You have to understand that side. And I think you have to be willing to and accepting to do that. And again, what was important to me when I was a high school athlete going into college is a heck of a lot different than what it was for you or for Pat or for the kids, the families that we talk to. So again, you have to understand what they need, what they want, what their goals are in the process, because the more you can understand that, the more support and help you can provide, right? Same thing with, we're talking about, coach my nephew's 6th grade basketball team. I can't coach all those kids the same. Some kids can handle you yelling at them, and some kids you got to really
exactly
be soft with, right? So again, you got to know, I think, individuals and people and kind of how they tick. And I think the more you can understand that and be willing to understand that, which I think some people aren't, it just gives you that perspective on life, and I think allows you to be able to know how to help somebody.
Yeah, for sure. Pat, go ahead.
No, it's amazing. I think just touching on being there for people and taking the time to know people. You're not just going through the motions. You're putting your energy in and understanding people to know when they need some help, to be there for the big moments. I think that's strong. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, it helps you. It helps you coach them better when you know their full potential if you care about them and you're actually paying attention to them. Right. Yeah. If I need to actually get onto a kid because I don't think he's actually competing to his best ability, well, he knows I'm getting onto him because I care about him. Right. Not because we're just trying to win a game, or not just because we're trying to play a certain system. It's like, I know he can do better, and he's going to respect that because we've had conversations and we've had interactions. Because yelling at kids to yell at kids doesn't work anymore. And I think it's because of conversations like this where we can kind of understand everybody's perspective better nowadays, instead of, okay, we're going to win no matter what the cost, we're going to win. And so I'm going to try and fire every single person up here out. No, now it's, we care about the person behind the athlete.
100%.
Yeah. Luke, it's getting on that player because you care about him, getting on that coworker because you care about him, and then loving him or her twice as hard.
That's right.
But you have to know what makes them tick to do that, right? You have to know what makes them tick, right? And again, even in sixth graders, right? I have a couple kids that are, man, I want to play, I want to lock in, and some kids that are just happy to be there, right? They're just happy to be hanging out with their friends after school and doing something and being part of the team, right? So again, each person's different. I think that even, for the high school athlete looking to go in college, like, you've got to love the sport in order to play. You can't play because you think it's the cool thing to do, or you think it's going to, be something that some people are going to be proud of you for, right? You have to do it because you love it, especially as y'all talk about with the D3 level, right? Like, you have to love what you're doing to be an athlete, because for the most part, like, you guys aren't getting paid to go there and play the sport. You're doing it because you love it. So I think that's important too, is, again, what makes that person tick? How can you help their goals? Like, what are their goals? Not what's my goal for you, it's what's your goal for you, and how can I help with that?
Mm-hmm.
Luke, when a guy wears a Spread Love shirt on the pod, dude, the love here today is blown me away, man. Like, this is so strong, and loving is the strongest thing that we do. And for the last 25 minutes, it's just been, oh man, this is amazing stuff. But for the sake of time and being conscious of our listeners, being conscious of your time, I got to ask you, man, because I know, like I say every episode, you haven't always been like this. This took years of working on yourself in order to love others. Give me your keep going moment.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't know if I've had that, like, monumental, like, this is my keep going moment. And I think that I'm partially very appreciative of that, but also partially pretty excited about when that time comes to see, like, what is that curveball that gets thrown my way. I think for me, a lot of it's been personal. I got some years on you guys, and I've had some just things in my personal life. I was engaged once and had to break off an engagement. I've had some personal things come with relationships that to me have thrown kind of a wrench in my life, I think, a little bit. But again, I've always been able to, I think, overcome that and kind of have that perspective. So again, I don't know if I've had my keep going moment, but if you're going to make me pick one, I think it came during COVID quarantine. Was in a relationship long distance. COVID quarantine hits, stuck being at home by myself. It was the longest I had not seen my parents, my niece and my nephews, who live, 45 minutes from me here. Going through a breakup was just crazy and emotional, and, a lot of different feelings going on there. So I think getting to a point where I was okay being by myself and knew that could be my path, and probably was going to be my path moving forward. Again, I got some years on you guys. So, like, for me, I don't think having kids is in my future. Marriage, I don't know if that's in my future. Right. But I think just understanding that who I am and being proud of who I am. And I think, again, that was that moment where it was like, all right, things aren't working out for you. Like, how can you positively impact as many people as possible? Right. And again, Pat, that's really kind of when things clicked for our friendship, right? It was COVID quarantine, right? We're all kind of in that situation, and again, you lean on people and you lean on friends and family to help you through that. So I think for me, going through what I went through in 2020, and we all been through something during COVID and quarantine, but to me, coming out with the perspective that I have, to me, is a huge win. And again, I don't know if that was my big keep going moment, but I think it's been one along the way, and it's been one that I think has allowed me to have the perspective that I do now. And again, know that, I love who I am. I'm confident with who I am. I'm proud of who I am. And if that piece of my life isn't what I thought it was going to be, that's okay. So it's how do you just continue to move forward and continue to make an impact and keep doing the hopefully the positive things that you've been doing and helping other people too.
Yeah. In order to keep going, you had to love yourself to love others too.
Yeah, 100%. I think I don't know if it was ever like not a love for myself, right? But you always kind of wonder, like, all right, what is it about my story that hasn't had this chapter be finished yet? Like, why is this chapter still kind of like struggling, and what's missing here? So I think it's just trying to, like, again, understand how these situations happen, and how do you grow from it, right? Like, how do you learn from it? How do you try to be better the next time around? And again, I think post-COVID, post-quarantine, allowed my mind to really flip in that way. And like, Pat, this music plays a huge part in that for me, right? Like, music became a huge part of my life during COVID and quarantine, and become a huge passion of mine moving forward here, right? So again, I think you find things in your life that create that positivity and help you overcome those tougher times. And again, related back, right? Like, for me, sports and work has always been part of that. So I love sports still. Again, I'm not, playing it by any means, but still having your hands in that. And then also, again, surround yourself with good people and spread love are my two favorite mottos of all time. So,
Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a quote from the guy that founded, or not founded Maryville College, but it's a quote we use at Maryville College all the time. Reverend Isaac Anderson, I believe, and it's do good on the largest possible scale. But to be able to do that, it's got to start with the smallest possible scale with yourself, right? So just understanding from that perspective that if I'm good, then I can help other people be good is awesome.
David, I love you, man. And I know our listeners are going to absolutely eat this up. There's so many great takeaways here. I feel like we could chop it up for hours, man. I really do. I want to let listeners know where they can find you, because there's going to be people that are going to want to talk to you. Talk about what you got cooking up right now in your life and how our listeners can find you.
Yeah, I know you guys will link it up. Again, music's a big thing. So if you're into music and positive vibes and good motivation there, you can check out Family Bops. It's got some music on there. But
the mixes, baby.
The mixes, So again, but that's played a huge part in my life. Like, music for me is always there. It's always something that can get me in a good mood and keep me going and keep me positive. So big part of it. You guys, I'm sure, will link up my personal info in there. Again, I'm super excited. Even being on here was exciting. So it was like, where is this conversation going to go? And it allows me to kind of open my mind and think about things. And I didn't know what we were going to talk about, this or that, and where I was going to zig or zag. But again, being able to be on here has been super awesome. What you guys do is super great. And again, the guests that you guys have, the support that you have. So again, I'm always available if you need to reach out. I'm always available for a pep talk or some positivity. That's for sure.
Appreciate that, DK. We're so thankful that you came on and shared your perspective, man.
Cool. I got a question for Luke before we go. Don't forget.
Oh, I'm not cutting anything. I was about to say, fire away, DK.
All right, Luke, I just mentioned it. Music to me is like let's get me out of a funk. If I'm not in a Zoom meeting at work, I got music playing. What's your positive music vibe? Like, you are in a weird mindset, you're looking to put some music on to get you going. What are you listening to?
This may be sneaky though, dude. And it's not like it's a popular person, but this may be sneaky for you. John Mayer.
Oh.
John Mayer, bro.
This all makes sense now. Because the whole time, for 14 episodes, I was just talking about how Luke's body's a wonderland. This whole time. And now it all makes sense. Here we are. So tell me about it, Luke. Tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. No, like Gravity and just all these live it's really the live performance stuff, because I think John, I'm a guitar guy. I play acoustic guitar. There's videos back in the day of John Mayer playing with BB King, right? Legends like that and holding his own. He's all about positivity. If you listen to his songs, he's got unreal songs about love, about friendships, about so many different things. But if I'm feeling a little down, if I put on live John Mayer like concerts, it's just insane, dude.
I'm giving you sharing music is one of my favorite things ever. Martin Sexton and John Mayer.
Okay.
Stop Thinking About You on YouTube. Look it up; it'll blow your mind.
Okay, I'm on it, dude.
And I trust him because if you guys, our listeners, might not know this already, that fire bop that you hear at the beginning of our podcast every week, that's family bops.
Yes. I can't believe I haven't said that already. I should have said that in the intro. I should have said that in the intro already.
Well, we know where that fire is coming from. So if you want to talk sports, if you want to talk perspective, if you want to talk music, it's the guy with the white hat on right now wearing the Spread Love t-shirt.
That's right. Spread love, baby.
Spread love.
David, you are a blessing in my life. You are a huge blessing for hundreds of people. Our listeners can get so much out of this, man. And thanks so much for taking time out of your Sunday, man.
I appreciate you guys again for doing this. Appreciate you having me on. And again, keep going.
Yes, sir. Keep going. All love, baby.
All love. Luke, so let me just start off by saying, like, that could have went 15 hours.
Oh, 100%. 100%,
yeah.
Man. And you know, I've always thought about the sports broadcasting perspective of stuff. It's super interesting to me growing up, listening to the Cubs on WGN. The commentary they did on those games was one of the reasons I'm a huge Cubs fan now. So I had a similar experience to DK growing up about like being passionate about that side of the sport. And it's great to hear his perspective from somebody like that.
No, man, there's so many great nuggets there, man. I can't wait to share those with our listeners. And God, we're blessed to have people like David and all the rest of our guests. And that was fantastic. I do want to segue into the CNC BNC ad read.
That's right. CNC and BNC. Okay. Homegrown apparel and design. We linked them last time. And guys, you got to go over there and check it out. They have a bunch of cool stuff going on that you can decorate your home with. Let me see here. I got the website right here, and I can't find it right now, Pat. But anyway, we're super grateful for CNC and BNC. They're going through some hardships right now, so keep them in your thoughts, and please go and support them on that website. I know you will enjoy their stuff. They're great people, and they make quality work. So thank you guys for sponsoring us.
No, homegrown design, awesome stuff. And like Luke said, they just had their beloved puppy die over the weekend, Ryder, and he lived a fantastic life and was a huge part of their family. So thoughts and prayers go out to CNC and BNC over at Homegrown Design. Check it out. We'll throw that in the show notes as well. With a more upbeat transition, Luke, social media shout of the week, Giannis, not too far from where David actually was covering sports with the Milwaukee Bucks. Give me some shout out with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm going to try to get that. Go ahead.
Antetokounmpo?
There it is. That sounds a lot better.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. He donated, listen to this number, $1 million. I've never seen $1 million in my life. Never. Can't even imagine it. But he donated $1 million to Milwaukee Mental Health Services. And part of the article, Pat, I don't know if you kind of focused on this as much as I did, but I saw that a big reason for this was his transition from having to leave like his home country and coming to America, which is something I've experienced, not to the extent that he has of just coming over here for his career. But, I spent a majority of or a whole year of my college in Spain, and that was tough for me personally, mentally. And I know being an NBA star and having that much pressure on top of moving away from your own culture and having to come to another one could have been devastating for him.
Agreed. I think anytime you see a all-star, you see an MVP, an NBA champion donating $1 million to mental health foundations, amazing stuff. And Giannis, I don't watch a lot of NBA, man, but big fan of you, not only as a player, but as a person. And this kind of stuff spreads the news. This kind of stuff, it allows us to keep doing this stuff to end the stigma. So Giannis and anyone else doing this in their circles, amazing stuff. So actually, Luke, to transition into the Ask Luke Week segment, we actually got questions this week, and I didn't have to stand on I-90 with a sign.
Yeah, thank God. I was worried about you, man. I was worried about you.
I got hit by a car, and I don't want to get hit by a car. Like, that's not a good area to be doing.
That wouldn't make me feel too good.
No, my mental health would have suffered from that. So I'm glad
guaranteed
that we are doing this the old-fashioned way by just sending Luke a question.
Do it.
I got 2 for you, Luke. We're going to rapid fire them to be conscious of people's time.
Yeah, we're going here.
When are we getting the merch?
Merch should be coming very soon, guys. Within the next 3 or 4 weeks, we got to set up a little website for it that we can get, so we can get it distributed out to people. It may just be a little DM us what you want, and we can get your address and send it to you. But me and Pat are working with a couple cool people that have got some sweet designs for us. So, Pat, you super excited about that?
Oh, stoked, man. CNC and BNC over at Homegrown Design and Apparel. They're helping us out, and we'll get that cracking. Second one, you guys do all this cool podcast stuff. When is there going to be a Keep Going event?
Yes, sir. I know we're trying to get some stuff going. Actual baseball tournament, right? Not wiffle ball. What are we thinking, Pat?
And we are still in the works with what we're going to do, but the grand scheme of things, we're going to have a huge tournament, either kickball, wiffle ball, baseball, get some food trucks, get some music. Maybe David will come and DJ that. Who knows?
We could only be so lucky.
Yes. And we're going to spread a bunch of love, make a bunch of money for foundations of our choice to really end the stigma and try to promote, shine the light on mental health. And I think a day like that could open up some eyes and hopefully spark some conversation. So, Luke, in the future here, probably as early as summer, but we still got some things in the work in the back end to make sure we're covered in that department. Because if we're going to do it, Luke, we only have one speed, man. We want to do it big.
That's right. And I think me and Pat are learning as guys with full-time jobs doing this on the side that, you know, it's a grind for sure, but we think it's important, and that's why we keep doing it every week. Pat is one of the hardest workers I know, and I'm so lucky to be able to work with him and get his perspective on things. And dude, I just appreciate you so much, putting so much effort into this.
Luke, you've been a blessing, bro. And I wouldn't want to do this to anybody else. And I think our goal when we set out for this was to impact one person. Now it's how can we get that one person to tell somebody else? And I think there's a lot of power in that. And we're going to do our best, being former college players, to end that stigma. And Luke, above all, man, keep going, brother. I love you.
Keep going, man. I love.
Peace.